Welcome to the Journal podcast from the Chartered Insurance Institute, a place for thought-provoking discussion from the world of insurance and beyond. I'm Christopher Shadforth, and today I'm in conversation with Adam Harper and Holly Porter at the Network Conference 2025. This podcast was recorded live when I held a conversation with our two new executive directors. Adam, Holly, thank you for joining us today. We just want to give them the briefest of opportunities to introduce themselves to you as well. So do you want to say a few words about who you are and where you've come from?
Delighted to be here, and it's been a fantastic event already. I think that the opportunity to engage and network last night was something which left me with a real palpable sense of such positivity and enthusiasm that there is around the network. All of the conversations I had were very much steeped in the impact and the focus on future opportunities, which was fantastic. From my role, having spent the entirety of my career in the professional body environment, so working in an environment where, as Matthew's described, I've become very clear on the importance of professionalism, but moreover, the impact that as individuals you can all have, but the impact that as an organisation we can have in helping you to achieve your career goals and career aims, and also then impact on the public agenda through the work that you do. So to join the CII at the time that I've joined, with this fabulous array of initiatives that we've got underway, fantastic strategic priorities that we got in place, I know that timing is everything, but genuinely, it's such an exciting time to be part of this organisation. The leadership team is fantastic. I've been brilliantly supported from word go. There are some absolutely hugely talented individuals working within the team, and it's been a privilege to have spent these first 3 months getting to know them and getting a clearer understanding of the impact that I can have.
Superb. Thanks, Adam. And we'll talk about some of those initiatives a bit more in a second. But Holly.
Yeah, I'm going to echo everything that Adam said. And thank you so much for such a warm welcome last night. I was trying to work the room and speak to as many people as possible. And I think it's the stories and the passion and the network that brings it to life, really, for me. And I certainly got a very real sense of that when I was going through the interview process. And ever since joining, everybody just genuinely wants to do their very best work for members and stakeholders. So that's a brilliant basis to start from. So like Adam, I came from another professional body. I probably spent even more time talking about AI in my last job because it was the Chartered Institute for IT. And there, the notion of professionalism was way, way, way and far lower, had a lower basis than in this profession. So I sort of understand some of the challenges about how to sort of constantly keep banging the drum for that really strong value set and those principles of professionalism that are so important and need to underpin everything that we do. My career has been a case study in lack of structure, which is why I'm really pleased to be working with the structure that we're bringing to the profession here at CII in terms of the professional map and all of the career pathways. I started my career in customer services, a great place to start. You need to be able to answer almost any question. So I worked for manufacturing organisations initially. I think through my career, every single role that I've had has had some form of international dimension as well, which has set me up for the task here. And moved into product management and sales, and then had a career change and went into comms and marketing. And so the last 12 years have been with a membership background, firstly in a professional standards body, a data standards body, and then latterly at another professional body. So a lot of the conversations that we have are very familiar to me, but through a slightly different lens. But hugely excited to be here, and we'll talk a little bit about our brief shortly, I guess. But
well, let's head into that straight away with you, Holly. I mean, in terms of you've both been here since early March. What are your initial reflections on the work that you've encountered, the challenges that are present that you're looking to overcome?
Well, I'm a glass half full person, so I'm not going to start with the challenges. Of course, I'm going to start with the opportunities. But I think it's been really refreshing when you have started a new job, you look under the bonnet and you're slightly worried about what you're going to find. And I haven't had any of that at all since I joined. Sure, there are things that we need to fine tune and dial up. But Matthew's talked about the strategic priorities that we've got. You're going to hear about some really, really exciting plans and some momentum that we've got on a whole host of areas, from early careers, CPD, membership, qualifications and learning, and all of that's in motion already. So, having that bag of ingredients as a starting point, I feel very fortunate to have that. And so my portfolio is around looking at our employer relationships, our corporate partnerships, and also our international growth. So really pleased to have a very clear mandate from the board, as we've heard, to look internationally and take our brand of professionalism out to different territories. We've already got offices in Dubai and in Hong Kong, as you know. And I think the visits that have taken place by Matthew, Ian, Helen and by Nicola over the past couple of years have really laid the groundwork and foundations for that excitement.
And you've been out there recently as well.
Yes. So week 6, I went out to visit the office, and Matthew and I had a very rich programme of meeting regulators, meeting corporates, meeting the team out in our Middle East office, and actually exploring the opportunities. And since then, there's been a lot of momentum. We've worked on a large bid, which is something we hadn't done as an organisation before in UAE for a piece of work. And I think whether or not we're successful in that, it's shown that we were invited to tender for that. And so what our work is already being recognised, and the quality of our qualifications framework and how we could bring that to life. And I think internally that was a really exciting project to work on as well, because it brought together lots of strands and lots of different people from within the organisation to really put our best face forward.
And that bid came, didn't it, on the back of engagement over quite a long period of time. And we've seen success and understanding of what the CII can bring to a country and a regulator through the mandating of qualifications in the UAE, Sri Lanka. There's news potentially about Kuwait as well. This is all really positive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm determined to try and play regulator bingo. We've had one, this month was Kuwait, last month was Sri Lanka, so hopefully we'll continue on that vein. But seriously, I think it is, when approaching international markets, you just really need to think about how do we set ourselves up for success, and how do we help the profession and, make sure that we can be a part of delivering on what it needs. And those regulator conversations, the obvious starting point really, and we've been really successful in doing that. And so I think it then elevates our position from training providers and from other players in the market, because we can have a much broader conversation that taps into all of those different needs and help to set up those frameworks.
Fabulous. Well, Adam, I'm going to come back to you and your initial reflections since you joined the CII. And of course, we've done a lot of roundtables. We've been talking to regulators. How has it felt for you over these first 4 or so months? So I think for me, if I focus on the part of my role that is centred on advocacy, I was intrigued by something that Matthew said, where he was talking about how each of you should be shouting about what it is that you do within your roles professionally whenever invited to share that. And I think I would draw parallels with the Institute itself, in as much that we've gotten a huge amount to say and we've gotten the capacity to really make a difference. And I think potentially it feels as if we've not been quite as strident in doing and saying that as we perhaps could do. And so for me, it's a fantastic opportunity to step into this role, reflecting on the fact that in my previous role, which was with a professional body in the accountancy sector, I set up a public affairs and policy function in what was a very crowded marketplace. And what was critical there was to try and establish a particular perspective that we were able to bring to the table in that. And I look at the opportunities within my current role, and I recognise that there is a massive opportunity for us to be able to make that difference. Matthew talked also about the power to change lives. And I reflect on the fact that what I will be keen to do is to establish a clear voice for the organisation that draws on the expertise that exists within this room, within the membership, within the communities, because you're the ones who are on a day-to-day basis experiencing the opportunities and challenges that are there. And so I really want to tap into that expertise and that enthusiasm that you have, so that we can then look to pull that together to support that with research and insight activity that enables us to really communicate a powerful and compelling public agenda for change. And I think that by establishing clear and informed opinion that then draws on the voice of the collective, we are in a position to make some serious impact. And I think that's what I've found. You mentioned the roundtable events, and they'd already started by the time that I took into the role, but there was one of those that was probably within the first 2 or 3 weeks. And I was fascinated by the level of enthusiasm, but also the kind of engagement at those roundtables where people were sharing their insight, positive and negative experiences that enabled us to reflect on, okay, so there's something that we can do here. We can pull together a message. So we've produced guidance. We're producing a summary of those discussions. It led then to the topics that we've explored with subsequent roundtables. I don't see this as a once and done proposition. If you're talking specifically about consumer duty and vulnerability, there is going to be a real ongoing opportunity for us to engage in that agenda and lead that discussion. Brilliant. Well, let's tap into those expertise in the room now and ask you our first question on Slido. And it really is to inform the areas of focus that we might have for the future. And so the question, I think, is what are the most pressing issues facing the insurance, financial planning and mortgage advice professions today, public trust there is a very strong answer right in the centre. Engagement also an answer. Adam, I'll come to you immediately. What do you make of the fact that public trust is such a large and dominant answer thus far? I think it's hugely reassuring to see it because it aligns to our chartered status that we've got and the role that we occupy. I think for me, professionalisation is a fundamental way to be able to achieve that public trust. So by being in a position to demonstrate commitment to maintaining high standards of professionalism, ongoing engagement with developing competencies and skills, to reflect on the emerging challenges that you're encountering, and then seeking to adapt and develop what it is that you do, is a fundamental way of being able to deliver to that public trust agenda. And I think what we can do centrally is to draw on through, as I've mentioned, the insight gathering, the sort of interactive sessions that we're looking to develop that enables us to then communicate that across the breadth of stakeholders that we engage with to drive up awareness of how we can make a difference.
Very good. I mean, Holly, looking at this list of the things from your specific seat with markets and opportunities that stand out for you as potential areas that we might already be focused on or ones that we might look to go to in the future.
I think might not be the thing that you would expect me to say, but the talent piece here is coming through really strongly. And I think if we're going to have broader conversations with employers and partners, building out from the qualifications and the reputation that we've got and thinking about all of the different ways that people come into the profession, the way people upskill and need to reskill. We've got speed of AI there in terms of, the world's changing. We can't continue to do the same things that we've done, in our great stately home for the past few years. So it's our ability to adapt to that and accept that we don't have all the answers ourselves. And, the key to this really is drawing in the partners and the stakeholders to help develop our offer and create programs that they can engage with to go alongside the more formal qualification structures that we're looking to put in place, and really using the power of the network and advocacy to the shared mission and values.
And one of the questions that's come in is precisely in this vein, and I suspect has contributed to some of the answers there, which is, will the CII work more closely with universities and schools to provide professional qualifications at school, or as the accountancy bodies do with universities? Is that something, I know we already do a lot of work in schools and with universities, and without wishing to give something away, the PFS will be making an announcement about some work that they will be doing with universities very shortly as well. But any thoughts on working more closely with schools and universities, Adam?
Yeah, I think fundamentally one of the key roles that we can occupy is about educating and empowering consumers. And some of that is about starting young. I think that some form of insurance or financial literacy program within schools will be a great way of being able to demonstrate not just the opportunity for really exciting careers within the profession, but also recognising the key role that insurance plays. And I don't think that's something which can be understated in terms of the impact of something at that age. Matthew's already mentioned that we've got a whole programme of some really exciting initiatives and development underway that's looking at the kind of career and talent pipeline. And inevitably, that's going to entail engaging with institutions such as schools and universities. But I was having a conversation with a colleague earlier over the networking session prior to this morning's event starting. And whilst it's vital that we look at ways in which we're able to attract new talent into the profession, reflecting on some of the content that was captured in a recent FSSC skills report, it's also about recognising the opportunity for upskilling and reskilling and providing pathways into the profession for people who are looking to change careers. So whilst I agree that we do need to focus on that early stage career stuff, it's also recognising that there is some fantastic talent that's untapped out there that we can look to bring into the profession at a later stage.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adam. Well, let's move on to the second theme that we've got as well. So this one is about how we can all contribute to the future. And it's important that we understand how different stakeholders across our profession can contribute to achieving the CII's mission. So the question for you is, what actions outside of your control could be taken to help build consumer confidence and trust in our professions? Now, we'll give you a few moments to have a think about that, but what actions outside your control could be taken to help build consumer confidence and trust in our professions? And as you're answering that, I'll turn to one of the other questions, and it's in relation to the key messages that the CII wants to communicate to build a strong public voice and raise awareness of the profession's value. I mean, Holly, you again, from your seat, what can the CII be doing more to build that strong public voice in your mind?
Yeah, I think more roundtables on more topics, drawing in a broader range of stakeholders. Coming back to the previous point around talent, and there have been so many conversations about people fall into insurance and don't understand the opportunities that are available to them. I've sort of got in my mind that it would be great to do an industry-wide campaign around careers and the potential that exists in insurance and financial planning. There's a parallel from the tech and engineering world. So there was a campaign that some of you may have seen called This Is Engineering. And it was a whole different ways that people can come into the profession and make an impact in a whole different range of settings and job roles. And I think we could do exactly the same thing. And it would be a great vehicle for us to work in partnership with other organisations, whether it's another professional body, whether it's internationally, to sort of open up a market, because it's on everybody's minds. It's something that everybody talks to us about.
Well, I don't know if you influence some of the answers there, but education is top of the word cloud list and compulsory qualifications is there as well. Just out of interest, who in the room put compulsory qualifications? Why did you say compulsory qualifications?
Because I'm a PFS member, and obviously we have to do level 4, but I just don't think that's high enough in terms of professionalism. You know, it's 6 multiple choice questions, which are relatively straightforward. Is that good enough? Probably not, really.
So you think the CIO and PFS should do more to build in or work with regulators to try and get that mandated in the UK as well? I mean, I think a few people have said that. We've talked about other international jurisdictions and regulators mandating qualifications. Have you got a sense through your conversations yet with the regulators here? But I don't know if this is more you, Adam, but also you, Holly, about what the barriers might be to achieving that. This is quite a long-standing state of affairs, isn't it? I mean, I think from my point of view, I kind of can draw parallels to this was a campaign that we were looking to deliver within my previous role. So I think that typically where there is an aversion to over-regulate, and I think as Matthew's mentioned already, that as the tide is receding from a regulatory perspective, government isn't going to be keen to try and sort of step into that regard. So I think for me, our opportunity is to demonstrate the value. And so by reinforcing the impact that engaging with the qualification can have, and we're going to have opportunity to hear about the developments to the qualification, which I think talks to perhaps to some of the points that are being made around fit for purpose. I would also build into that, and I would be foolish to not mention the importance of the professional map, which is now sort of very much that kind of spine that's running through everything. Because that recognises that as well as it being about the technical elements, there's also that importance around behavioural skills and about the supporting skills that are required, the enabling skills that talks to that more rounded professional. And I think that by driving greater visibility and awareness around that, we could create the demand, both from employers and amongst individuals, to seek out and engage with the qualification rather than it being something that's mandated. I think there's always that risk that if it's something that is mandated, does it necessarily then attribute the value that we would want to ensure is seen as something that will be gained through engaging with the qualification? A couple of final questions. There's a question here. I might have a punt at the answer first, but if you want to jump in as well. It's about exploring digital platforms like TikTok to connect with younger audiences and inspire the next generation. Absolutely. We're definitely looking at TikTok and whatever new channels that might come along as well. It is a very different channel. Some of the people in the room use it very, very proficiently. I don't use it very proficiently at this point in time. I'm sure my kids would better than I do. But we're absolutely looking at how we can harness all of these social media platforms to the most effective nature. So we'll be looking at that, particularly in relation to the PFS in a few weeks' time. And then perhaps one final one. How can we reduce the gap between local councils and the central body? So Adam, you're very much talking to the professional communities and looking to close the gap between the professional communities and the central body, but perhaps you could elaborate on that as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that it talks very much to the point I was making before, which is that the expertise exists around this room. And in that respect, whilst we will have a view from a central perspective as to the key areas that we want to address and the campaigns that we're wanting to deliver, fundamentally, for that to be authentic, for that to have the impact we need it to have, it has to be supported by insight that we're gathering through engagement. Professional communities, as Matthew's mentioned, represent a fantastic opportunity for us to do that. I'll be meeting with representatives from the communities later on today. And to give you a practical example of something that I'll be looking to explore, as Matthew's mentioned, we're drawing together a response to the consultation from the FCA around its proposal to remove the mandatory 15 hours worth of CPD. And I want to get a sense of what impact that's going to have. Matthew's already mentioned that we're going to be robust in our response, but to be able to then draw on comments and expertise and insight from the community groups will be hugely important. And that applies similarly to the local institutes too. I'm only 3 months in post. I've already engaged with my local institute in Leeds, but my aim is to get out and around and engage with the local institutes to similarly gather your thoughts and perspectives that we can then look to leverage as part of that kind of compelling public agenda for change. So yeah, huge amount that can be done. And Holly, one final question to you. With companies looking to tighten their belt, how do we highlight the importance of the CII and our exam so that it's not cut from their expenses? Immediate reflections on that.
I think the more touch points that we can have across the organisation and the more champions, the harder it's going to be to cut that sort of thing out. The corporate development team have really strong relationships with a lot of the HR and L&D functions. We know that we want more strategy and structure to engaging on a broader scale, so that's part of the brief. But I think one of the things that certainly in general insurance we see is that lots of people take the certificate and that pathway and that thread doesn't continue. And I think that's something that we definitely need to focus on. And so it's about kind of overlaying the richness of membership and the value that you can get from membership and from the community. And also, I think this is where the local institutes have a key role to play and the CPD that's being offered. And certainly the team at CII, the corporate development team, are already trying to spend more time. We've picked up the realigning the partnership piece of work. And I think need to think about how do we take that forward. And sometimes you need more set pieces, things that you can work on together and say, what's the objective in this region? How can we create, maybe a couple of interventions that we can draw more people into? And all of that will sort of create that ripple effect and that value so that it makes it more difficult to move away from what's already in place.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Adam and Holly. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Journal podcast. You can find useful links in the show notes and related articles on the Journal website, along with further podcasts. Please like, review, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.